Cloud City. The carbonite chamber is cold, filled with steam and uncertainty. Vader stands, cloaked in darkness, extending a gloved hand to the battered Luke Skywalker. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. This time, Luke doesn't recoil. He senses the truth. Obi-Wan lied to him. His father isn't just a memory or a monster. He's real, powerful, and offering him something he never had belonging. Confused and angry, Luke grasps Vader's hand. Leia and Chewbacca escape, unable to save him. Han is frozen. The rebellion reels from the loss. Luke is taken to the Emperor. Palpatine welcomes him, hides his malice behind false warmth. With Vader at his side, Luke begins his training, not in hate, but in order. He learns that power can restore peace. The Jedi teachings were fragments of a broken past. But Vader has a secret plan: to overthrow Palpatine and rule with Lucanot as Sith, but as a new order. Luke, seduced by the idea of balance through strength, listens. The seed is planted. With Luke's insider knowledge and Force-enhanced abilities, the Empire strikes harder than ever. Echo Base is destroyed. Monday Mothma is assassinated. Lando is executed for betrayal. Leia becomes the de facto leader, hardened and vengeful. But she senses Luke isn't gone, he's twisted. She feels it in the Force. Haunted by visions of Padme and Anakin's fall, Luke begins to question his path. He sees the cost of power, cities burning, innocents enslaved. He confronts Vader, demanding truth. Vader, torn between love for his son and loyalty to the Empire, opens up. He reveals the lie of Darth Sidious, how he once believed he could use the dark side to save his family. But it's too late. Palpatine knows of their treachery. On the shattered remains of Alderaan, Luke and Vader confront the Emperor. It is a trap. A battle ensues. Palpatine nearly kills Luke with Force lightning, but Vader Anakin intervenes. He sacrifices himself to destroy Sidious, this time not out of anger, but out of love and redemption. Luke, scorched and alone, drags Vader's body away. He now wears black robes, not Sith, not Jedi. Luke seizes control of the Empire, but not as a tyrant. He abolishes the Sith, dismantles the death camps, and reshapes the galaxy into a militarized peace. The rebellion splinters. Leia tries to reason with him, but Luke is now unyielding. The galaxy doesn't need heroes, it needs order. The Jedi Order never returns. Luke rules as the Shadow Chancellor, venerated and feared. Years pass. The galaxy is peaceful on the surface, but the Force is silent. Children are born with potential, yet none dare teach them. The Force itself seems dormant, waiting. And in a distant world, a lone child looks to the stars, feeling a power awaken. The cycle begins anew. The wind howled through the carbonite freezing chamber. Mist curled around Luke Skywalker's boots as he stood, lightsaber broken, heart racing. Darth Vader's voice echoed in the steel room, low and heavy. Asterisk. Luke, I am your father. Asterisk. The words hung in the air like smoke. Time slowed. Luke's chest tightened. His mind rebelled against it, but the Force whispered it was true. Obi-Wan lied to me. Asterisk. Luke thought. Ben lied. My father is Vader. Asterisk. He staggered back, pain flashing across his face. Vader didn't press the attack. Instead, he stepped forward and extended a black-gloved hand. Asterisk. Join me. Asterisk. Vader said, his tone almost gentle. Asterisk. Together, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. Asterisk. Luke looked at the hand. The dark side pulsed from it, cold and powerful. But beneath the armor, beneath the machine, was a man his father. For the first time, Vader wasn't just a monster in a mask. He was family. Lightning cracked outside the platform window. Luke felt the storm in his soul. He thought of Leia, Han, Chewbacca, of Yoda, of Obi-Wan's ghost. But he also thought of the boy he used to be alone, watching the twin suns set on Tatooine, dreaming of something more. He took a breath, not the deep, steady breath of a Jedi, but a broken one, heavy with doubt. Asterisk, if I join you. Asterisk, he whispered, his voice trembling. Asterisk. Will you spare my friends? Asterisk. Vader's head tilted slightly. Asterisk. You have my word. They will not be harmed. Asterisk. Silence stretched. Luke's hand twitched. His face twisted with emotion pain, fear, anger, and something else. Resolve. He stepped forward, closer to the abyss, and grasped Vader's hand. Their fingers locked. The bond was sealed. For a brief second, Vader seemed to falter just slightly. Not in victory, but in something stranger. Pride? Regret? Behind them, the chamber lights flickered. Above, the Millennium Falcon fled into the clouds, unaware that its last hope had just fallen into shadow. And below, Luke Skywalker, hero of the rebellion, took his first step into darkness, walking beside the man who once was Anakin Skywalker. The journey to Coruscant was silent. Luke sat beside Darth Vader in the shuttle, eyes downcast, the weight of his choice pressing on him like gravity. He had expected answers, perhaps even comfort. Instead, he felt only the cold hum of the engines and the heavy breath of the man who claimed to be his father. When they arrived, the Imperial Palace loomed like a shadow over the city world. It was grand, sterile, and lifeless. No warmth, no laughter, just order. Days passed, then weeks. Vader trained him relentlessly. In the dark chambers beneath the palace, Luke clashed blades with his father again and again. Each session left him bruised, aching but stronger. He learned to let go of hesitation, to strike without mercy, to trust in power. You hesitate, Vader growled during one sparring match, locking sabers. A Jedi waits, a Sith acts. I'm neither, Luke said, teeth clenched, pushing back. I just want to end this war. Then, learn what it takes. When not training, he studied under the Emperor. Darth Sidious cloaked his lessons in philosophy. He spoke of justice, of peace through control. He told Luke that freedom was chaos wearing a mask, that the Jedi had let the galaxy rot under their sanctimonious code. Luke listened, even when his gut twisted. Sometimes, in the silence of his quarters, Luke remembered Yoda's words. He saw Ben's ghost, still warning him to resist, but they had lied, hid the truth about his father. They had let him walk blind into a world of half-truths and ancient grudges. And Vader had been honest. Do you know why I brought you here? Vader once asked. Their lightsabers deactivated, the chamber silent. Luke shook his head. Because I see what you could become. Not a tool, not a slave to prophecy. Something greater, a leader. Luke wanted to believe it. He needed to. The boy who once looked to the twin suns of Tatooine now stood beneath towers of Durasteel, wielding the DarkSide like a blade. He told himself it was for peace, for justice. But deep down, a quiet voice asked, at what cost? Asterisk. The rebellion never saw it coming. Luke Skywalker once, their brightest hope vanished after Cloud City. Rumors spread that he had fallen, captured by Darth Vader. Leia refused to believe it at first. But then, everything started to unravel. Just weeks later, the Empire launched precision strikes. Rebel outposts, once hidden in the far reaches of the Outer Rim, were attacked with uncanny accuracy. Communications were jammed. Safe routes were no longer safe. It was as if the Empire could read their minds. In truth, it was Luke. Under Vader's guidance, he'd given the Empire everything he once protected: codes, bases, names. And worse, he believed he was saving the galaxy by doing it. This way, fewer people die, he told himself. When the attack on the hidden moon of Polari began, Leia was there. She watched in disbelief as an Imperial shuttle landed and outstepped Luke, clad in dark robes, lightsaber humming red. Leia, he said almost softly, you need to leave. You can't win this war. Her breath caught. Luke, what have they done to you? I see clearly now. The Jedi lied. Obi-Wan lied. Vader, he's not a monster. He's my father, and the only way to bring peace is through strength. Peace? She said, voice shaking. Is that what you call this? Behind them, fire lit the horizon. Stormtroopers marched through the jungle, gunning down resistance fighters. I tried to spare them, Luke whispered, but they wouldn't listen. Leia didn't answer. She stared at the brother. She barely recognized his face, colder, eyes tired. For a moment, she reached for her blaster, but something stopped her. A whisper in the Force. Asterisk, he's still in there. Asterisk. She fled as ordered, barely escaping aboard the Asterisk, Tantiv's Mercy. Polari fell within hours. Across the stars, the Empire tightened its grip. Lando Calrissian was executed on charges of aiding fugitives. Admiral Akbar's fleet was ambushed above dock. Even Monday, Mothma was assassinated by a rebel double agent turned Imperial loyalist, swayed by Luke's words. The corridors of the Executor hummed with power, yet inside Darth Vader's private chamber, the silence was suffocating. Luke stood near the viewport, watching the stars drift by like whispers of freedom he once believed in. "You're troubled," Vader said, his voice metallic and deep. Luke didn't answer right away. His arms were crossed, his brow furrowed. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, like a storm brewing beneath calm seas. "Is this what peace looks like? Burning cities? People kneeling at blaster point?" Vader turned slowly, his cape brushing the floor. "Peace is a lie told by those too weak to enforce it. We bring order, Luke. The galaxy has been broken for too long." Luke looked back at him, eyes sharp. "You told me we'd rule together, fix the galaxy. But I see the same cruelty the Emperor spreads, even in your commands." There was a pause, a long one. Vader's breathing filled the space between them. "You have grown stronger, wiser. That's why I brought you here. But Sidious, he will not yield power willingly. You want to replace him." It wasn't a question. Vader stepped closer, his tone lowering. "I wanted to do it with you, not out of ambition, but because I see what he's become, what he made me, what he wants to make you." Luke turned away. His reflection shimmered in the glass part shadow, part light. "I still feel Leia through the Force. I see what I've become in her eyes. She thinks I'm lost." "You are not lost," Vader said, more gently than expected. "You're choosing a path no Jedi dared walk. But power alone does not corrupt. Fear does, and Sidious feeds on it." Luke clenched his jaw. His hand went to his lightsaber, not to draw it, but to feel the weight. "Then we take him down," he whispered. For the first time, Vader's mask tilted in something close to approval. "Together," he said. But behind his words was something else. Fear. Not of Sidious, but of what his son might become if he went too far. And in that moment, the fate of the galaxy teetered on the edge of a blade. The shadows were deeper than ever aboard the throne world of Biss, where the Emperor had relocated his personal sanctum. Luke Skywalker stood beside Darth Vader, cloaked in black, his face still young but hardened. He had become a weapon, shaped by power, driven by vision. But in his heart, doubt flickered like a dying star. Emperor Palpatine watched them with sharp, unreadable eyes. He had seen the signs to many missions taken alone, too many hushed exchanges between father and son. Trust was not in the Emperor's nature. He had built his empire on fear, not loyalty. One night, as Luke meditated, he felt it, a cold pressure pressing into his mind, a presence, watching. He stood abruptly. "Father," he said, voice low, "he knows." Vader, silent for a moment, didn't deny it. "I felt it too," Vader replied. "He's preparing something." Luke's jaw tightened. "We strike now, then." But Vader hesitated. "Number, he will expect a challenge. He craves it. If we move too early, we fail." Their voices echoed in the dim chamber, as if the walls themselves were listening. And they were. In his citadel, Palpatine smiled. "So predictable," he whispered, caressing the air as if it were filled with strings only he could pull. The trap was set. Soon after, Palpatine summoned them. The chamber was vast, ringed in obsidian, and lit by a haunting, unnatural glow. "Lord Vader," the Emperor crooned, "young Skywalker, come." Luke felt the tension in the Force, the calm before the fire. "You have grown powerful, young one," the Emperor said, descending his throne. "Too powerful, perhaps." Luke didn't move. Palpatine raised his hand. In a blink, red-robed guards ignited electro-pikes. Blades flashed. The floor shook. A dozen guards lunged at Luke. Vader drew his saber, crimson blade hissing to life. He stood between Luke and the guards. Palpatine's voice thundered, filled with venom. "You would betray me, Anakin Skywalker?" For a breathless moment, there was only silence. Then Vader growled, "That name means nothing, but my son does." The room exploded into chaos. The war between master and apprentices had begun. The air was electric with tension. Lightning danced from Emperor Palpatine's fingers, arcing into Luke Skywalker's chest. The young Jedi fell to his knees, screaming, his body convulsing as pure, dark energy coursed through him. "You will die, just like your father once should have," Palpatine snarled, his voice twisted and ancient. Vader stood motionless for a moment, torn. He had once stood by while this very evil nearly killed his own son. But this time, it was different. Luke wasn't just his son. He was the last good thing Anakin Skywalker had left in this galaxy. "No." Vader's voice was low, shaking. Palpatine didn't stop. Luke writhed, his breath growing shorter, fingers clawing at the smooth floor. His eyes locked with Vader's, wide with pain and underneath Ithop. "No!" Vader roared. In a single explosive motion, Darth Vader grabbed the Emperor from behind. Palpatine's scream tore through the throne room as Force lightning backlashed in wild, shrieking arcs. Vader, still locked onto his master, stumbled toward the reactor shaft. Energy burned through him, melting circuits, searing flesh beneath armor. "I loved you like a son, Anakin," Palpatine shrieked, his face twisted in fury and betrayal. Vader said nothing. He walked straight into the pit's edge and hurled the Emperor into the chasm. A final burst of lightning lit the room like a dying sun. Then silence. Smoke curled around Vader's armor. He dropped to one knee, then collapsed beside Luke. Luke crawled to his father, bruised and shaking. He pulled off the helmet, revealing a scarred, pale face beneath. Anakin Skywalker's eyes, not Vader's, looked back at him. "You saved me," Luke whispered. Anakin smiled faintly. "I saved you. Tell your sister. You were right about me." Luke took his father's hand and held it as the life faded from his body. Anakin Skywalker, once the most feared man in the galaxy, died not as Darth Vader but as a father who had finally chosen love over fear. And above them, for the first time in years, the Force stirred with something like peace. The throne room was quiet now. The battle had ended. Smoke curled through the shattered columns, the air thick with the scent of ozone and scorched metal. Darth Sidious was gone, his twisted body flung into the abyss by the man he had once called apprentice. Anakin Skywalker was dead. Luke knelt beside his father's fading form, his black-gloved hand trembling as he removed the mask. The face beneath was pale, scarred, human. "Luke," Anakin whispered, "you were right." Luke's breath caught. "I tried to save you." Anakin gave a faint smile. "You did." Then the light in his eyes dimmed. He was gone. Luke stood slowly. The silence weighed on him, pressing harder than any battle. For the first time, he was truly alone. Later, in the ruins of Coruscant's imperial palace, Luke appeared not as a Jedi nor a Sith, but as something entirely new. Dressed in dark robes, lightsaber at his side, he stood before the remaining imperial officers, senators, and planetary leaders. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "The Emperor is dead," he said. "Darth Vader is dead. I am now the guardian of order." Some recoiled in fear. Others, tired of war and chaos, welcomed him. Luke moved swiftly. The Sith codes were burned. The old imperial governors were stripped of power. The slave systems were dismantled. He visited the Outer Rim personally, liberating factories where people had been worked to death. He ordered the stormtroopers to stand down in peaceful sectors, yet he made no effort to disband them. Instead, he made them answer directly to him. Leia arrived one day. She walked into his new court, unafraid. "Is this peace, Luke?" she asked quietly. "Or just a cleaner kind of tyranny?" He looked at her, shadows beneath his eyes. Peace, he answered, but not the kind the Jedi ever dared enforce. Leia's eyes shimmered, but she said no more. Luke ruled, not with cruelty, but with absolute authority. Crime dropped. Trade flourished. But people whispered. He was no emperor. He had no crown. But he was everywhere. Watching, guiding, controlling. Luke Skywalker, the last son of the Force, had built a galaxy without war. And yet, no one could say if it was truly free. In the quiet shadow of what was once a raging galaxy, the Force had gone still. No Jedi temples, no Sith lords, just silence. Years had passed since Luke Skywalker took control of the crumbling empire. He no longer called himself Emperor. That title belonged to the ghosts of men like Palpatine. Luke ruled as Shadow Chancellor, a figure of legend and fear wrapped in dark robes but driven by cold, unshakable logic. On the surface, there was peace. Worlds no longer burned. Star systems, once caught between war and rebellion, now knew order. Trade routes were open. Piracy had all but vanished. Crime syndicates, once thriving, had been dismantled by swift, precise force. The people, tired of bloodshed, accepted this new reign. Many even welcomed it. But beneath that calm, something was broken. The Force no longer sang. Luke would meditate for hours in silence, waiting, listening. But the visions were gone. The living energy that had once flooded his senses lifted him in moments of clarity, whispered truths in fire and wind. It was absent now, as if the Force itself had withdrawn. Leia had visited him once, years ago. She stood in his palace on Coruscant, in the hall of shattered Jedi statues, and looked her brother in the eyes. "You think you've won, Luke, but you've only muted the galaxy's voice." Luke had no answer. He only watched her walk away, her presence in the Force flickering like a dying flame. Far away, on a quiet desert world untouched by war, a child sat on a rocky hill beneath twin moons. The wind curled around them like a question. The child raised a hand to the starsnot in defiance, but wonder, and the Force, so long dormant, trembled softly. A whisper, a ripple, like the first breath after long silence. Somewhere in that vast silence, Luke Skywalker opened his eyes. He felt it. It was faint, like the echo of a dream, but it was there. The Force was not gone. It was waiting, watching. And with it came a truth he had refused to face. Peace without balance is not peace, and silence is not the same as harmony. A new beginning stirred. Not from a throne, but from the dust.